Jason's doing the morning time pellets.
Our horse's favorite time of the day.
Yep.
Until we get to the afternoon pellets, and then that's their new favorite time of the day.
Morning and afternoon pellet time.
Look at how excited they get. He's licking his chops.
Aww.
Go, buddy. Come on, Luna.
She wants his pellets.
The pellets aren't browner on the other side of the fence.
My seeded pumpkins are all ready to get planted. My dad was just here this morning. He kind of worked through my garden one more time for me. I'm so lucky I have a dad that loves doing all of that. So today this is what we're getting in. We're going to get in some Earth Tones Dent ornamental corn. Well, you can actually sift and use it as flour as well. And then we're going to get in some broom corn, some different gourds, pumpkins, squash, all of those goodies. And then I am also working on a couple of our other raised beds over here. And these are going to need some work. These two gardens right here, these are my last two raised beds. This right here is where they're located, so you can kind of see where it is that I'll be working today. And this is usually our lavender garden here. Over the winter, we had a really cold spell and we didn't have a lot of snow to cover some of our more tender perennials. Not really tender, they are for our zone, but they just had a really hard time returning. We had a really hard year for lavender this year. So there's probably only about 4 that have survived. So we'll kind of dig those out and place them somewhere else. But for today, we got to clean this up. As you can see, there are a lot of sunflowers growing in here. These are all volunteers from last year. So there were just a couple sunflowers growing in this garden last year. And the birds, you know, they eat right off of it. That's what we love about doing a lot of sunflowers, is they're just natural bird feeders from the time that they can start being harvested all the way through the winter. And this is where they drop them. And then this bed here, some we will keep in here and some we won't keep in here. And that goes along with like our sweetgrass along the front and around the border. This was actually a whole sweetgrass garden. But now that my one friend who actually owns a wellness center, now that I kind of grew some for her to have her own garden, we're gonna kind of, you know, only keep some of that in here. I know it's kind of hard to think about fall right now, but if we don't think about fall right now and where we're going to have certain gardens or how things will look by then, it will be too late once you start getting in that fall mode late August, early September. So, you know, like if you don't do the work for your fall gardens now, there is no fall garden. And, you know, if you can start things from seed, it's so much easier. Starting pumpkins from seed in your garden is really the best way to grow your pumpkins. But like we said in the past video, we actually had a lot of troubles with mice and ground squirrels eating our seeds out in that garden out there. So that's why we did pre-seed our pumpkin plants, and we'll kind of see how that goes again this year. This will be our second year doing it that way, and I felt like last year our harvest wasn't just as good as it was previous years when we were able to directly sow. But like I said, the reason why we went towards having the plants is because not last year, but the year before, about $300 worth of seed got eaten. And that was quite a big hit for us in our fall garden, because the fall garden provides so much activity, enrichment, food, beauty, and just so much fun and decorating, because we don't want to have to go out and, you know, buy things for decorating. We like to experience seasons here. You know, this is Wisconsin, so we get those 4 seasons and we make the best of them. So yeah, so that's kind of what I'm doing here today. So I'm just removing the old lavender, and it's really sad because like this was one of my favorite gardens. We're able to salvage just a few little bits. As you can see, we just got one little piece of surviving lavender here, and then over here as well. And it kind of goes on like that, just sporadically. I mean, it's just really sad how, look at all those plants. So many plants dying to it. And I gave it extra time. I mean, we're coming to the end of the first week of June here, and this is all that's coming, you know, so that's how you know that it's dead. So if you're ever unsure, allow something just an extra few weeks of return, especially after a really hard, cold winter. That'll allow you to really determine whether or not something's returning, you know. So this here, I do have a lot of volunteers, a lot of the borage, which is just basically a herb type plant. It can reseed and everything, but I always leave some of the volunteers, not all, but they get those beautiful blue plumes. Everything about it is edible, but the plumes bring in so many amazing beneficials, and it's great for the bees. The butterflies love it too, but the bees absolutely love this stuff. So I'm gonna just leave a few of them. I have them coming in along over there, but anything in between right in here, I am gonna remove. I didn't even keep these sunflowers because right now I don't know what variety they are, so they could be almost too tall. I don't want anything towering over what I'm gonna be growing here. This is just gonna be like a fun little fall patch, even though we're putting the whole fall garden out there. I'd still like to have like a little small patch of things in here with, you know, some of our flowering kales and some mums and some of just like the gourds, maybe like the miniature pumpkins, things like that in this one here. A few sunflowers, few little corn stalks, and just kind of call this one a day then after that. So as you can see, these two here actually have some really good growth. So these I will grab a clipper for because I think it's about half. This one might even be the whole plant over here. So we're gonna keep those where they're at. So I do seed our own lavender, but this one here was the Proven Winners Sweet Romance. The one I seed is the Moonstead, and that's a really hardy one for our zone. Even though this Sweet Romance is as well. So it's not really any fault of the actual perennial itself. It's just the way that our winter really went, because I even lost some of our really hardy Moonstead varieties. So lavender, like I said, got hit of all varieties. So we're gonna really have to replenish and seed start a lot more next year. I already talked with Walters, and they did, Walters Gardens, and they did say that they would help, you know, fill in the lavender batches for next year too when they have more available. So I thought that was really kind of them, and I just love that they support our garden and really help us out here in the garden to make sure that we're able to, you know, have these amazing plants and be able to share them all with all of you.
All right, so since Casey's got this one all stripped out here, it does need some fresh soil in here, and we've got a pile out front, so I'm gonna go grab a load of that, and we'll go take you and show you where our 2-year-long soil pile's been sitting. All right, through the gardens we go. All right, so right behind me is the soil pile. Now, yeah, it's been here for 2 years, but in all fairness, we did actually go through almost all of it last summer, and then we had a fresh load dump this summer because we had to refill some of the raised beds. So I do love where we dump this though, because every time I come over here to get dirt, we are off the front of the driveway area, kind of behind the berms, and this is always such a peaceful, quiet area because, you know, all the work and stuff's being done in the back, and so I always like coming up into this area and spending time up here. So this is one of my favorite spots.
So this is the next bed I'm cleaning. A lot of things volunteered to pop up this year, but like I already said, this is some of that sweet grass, which smells really sweet. Like, it would be kind of cool to do a lawn in this. So every time he mowed the lawn, it smelled sweet. But we've got that. We got this aggressive vine in here, which I don't really know what this is from. This has actually always just been in this bed. I think it just came from some of the soil that we have gotten in the past when we first added these. But then we've got a lot of calendulas in here, which I plant calendula all over. Calendula is one of my most favorite healing plants in the entire world because it's great for internal, external, teas, salves, oils, everything. It's skin oriented, so it's amazing. And then, so I'm going to be taking out a lot of the aggressive things. I'll take out some of the calendula, and then also we have some sweet wormwood in here, which I'm going to pull some of that. This can be, you know, weedy because it does seed out, but if you trim it before it seeds out, it's actually an amazing smelling herb. Sweet wormwood also can be used as a medicinal healing herb. A lot of people use it for their parasite cleanses. You know, that's what I feel like that's like all you hear about now. Everything's a parasite, you know, which I'm not discrediting, but that's really what this is being used for right now. And then also I saw some fennel. Yep, we got fennel in here, right here, which I already have fennel in my other part of the garden, so I don't want any in here. It looks a lot like dill. Oh, actually, you know what? That is dill. I'm like, no, this because I didn't.
Looks like dill.
So I didn't seed dill in here last year. I did fennel. I'm pretty sure I did fennel. So this is volunteered through birds or whatever the wind, you know, it carries. So this I will keep in here because I love having early dill that volunteers itself to pop up for the black swallowtail butterflies because that's what they depend on over like the common milkweed with monarchs. So got some spotted bee balm, which I'm going to keep these in here. I always love having the spotted bee balm. That's really nice.
Do those flower?
Oh yeah, yep. So that's the thing with some of these natives too, is they're just really like leafy at first, but they just have the most beautiful, longest lasting flowers that can be used for healing too. So not only do they draw in nature, but they heal us as well. So it's just like this full circle when you start adding plants that really belong in our general region. But yeah, so there's just a lot of, you know, extra little things in here. So I'm going to have fun kind of digging through. It's like Christmas morning, you know, you never know what you're going to find in here, and decide what we keep and kind of declutter. And yeah, and then we'll just kind of go ahead and seed it up, plant it up, and then this will be another successful, beautiful garden for harvest and nature. Right now I'm starting to plant up this little bed, and in this one I'm going to do little like treasures, little fall treasures. So I'm doing gourds and miniature pumpkins and a little bit of the Turk's turban squash. And then I'm doing the ornamental corn kind of coming up tall in the centers and on the front corners. So that way it kind of gives a little bit of shade, lessens the watering. Not that you want full shade with growing fall crops, but a little bit always kind of gives it a little bit of a break. And then it allows the vines to also trail up some of the corn if we need to. We're not depending on this corn for a harvest or for it to be perfect in here. This is just mainly just to have a good little combination to basically be a natural trailing trellis for it. And then I'll also add in just a few little seeds of the sunflowers because those stalks are even sturdier for gourds trailing up it. And it works out really nice that way every year. So I am planting these a little bit closer, but that's because they have unlimited growth potential outside of the box. So as soon as the vines come off the box, they have all of this growth here, which won't have any plants. and all of the growth on the front where Jason is currently to go off for the plants to vine out to. So there's nothing going to be growing in the stone, so they have unlimited space to kind of vine out, produce their fun little treasures, and this will be a really fun garden come, you know, September, October. And I usually add these into my pumpkin patch, but I never have enough room for all of my big pumpkins because they need a ton of space. So what I'm doing is kind of bringing in the smaller growing fruit vines over in here and then leaving the patch for the large, you know, pumpkin carvers, pie pumpkins, and all those specialty colored pumpkins, all of that fun stuff out there. So I'm adding a few mums into these beds because it's not complete unless you have fall mums in a fall garden. So all I'm gonna do is, so in the early spring, the mums do blossom, which they had tons of blossoms on. So I just went ahead and cut off all the blossoms. So right here, I can show you, I just went ahead and I just clipped. I just trimmed them down to here. And the best time to grow mums is right now. We plant them into the garden right now, and then they will be triple the size. So they actually,
of June.
So they become a total of like a foot in circumference, sometimes even wider. They're just really nice, and then they will come into blossom right when you need them to in fall again. So if you aren't in the fall season to create a fall garden, all you gotta do is smell a mum. It takes you there and it kind of helps you visualize what that garden can look like by then. And that's what helps me create a garden when I'm in summer mode, you know, but have to, you know, create something for later on. And I just put myself into that zone of what that season feels like, smells like, and then the magic happens. In here I did add just a few orange coleus just to like have some tall areas with just some orange, because this is just going to be pure vines coming off the sides and pure green up and over. That's what it's going to mainly be. But then I did do some kale off of the front. So this does get taller. This is the flowering crane kale, or the ornamental. And this is actually a cut flower, but we like to just leave it in our gardens. And we also love using it in containers and window boxes. It's just absolutely gorgeous, kind of just, you know, flying off the edges. It's just beautiful. But this is where it will stay. It'll add color, because as it gets cold, that's when kale gets its true color, but it still has a cool color, not as cool as fall, but okay for now. But it's the texture that remains amazing throughout the season in all of these beds. And when everything else isn't having a lot of color, that's where the kale kind of, you know, kicks in and is like, I'm on blast. So it's like just like that, like main focus in a fall picture, and it's just gorgeous. You know, and then if you leave it in your garden, it does get a little stinky. So if you don't want that stink come spring, just, you know, pull it out when the season's over. But yeah, we enjoy it through halfway through the winter. It holds its color, so it's pretty cool. But these coleus won't take up much room because everything else is going to just grow off the edge. They're just going to kind of come out and bush a little bit. And then where I'm placing our mums are just on these sides here. So we're just adding 2 onto this side, and then right here, and then I'm going to add 2 over here, so it's going to kind of mimic with the corn as well. So that way it's kind of like when you're driving down this driveway, you got like this pretty little fall scenery as you're driving, and it'll be in blossom. And I love the purples and oranges together. And I always find that the purple is actually the most scented to me. So that's what I actually harvest. I actually harvest the mum flowers because I love the scent. And then I can create, you know, fun, smelly things with that. I know I've had a lot of people ask me, how do you come up with these combinations, or how do you come up with this type of garden or whatever? And that's gonna have to be a whole nother video, because it'll go on and on forever. It's probably like a 10-minute chat I can have with you about how I create and what that process is, and how things just basically come to me based off of, you know, my lifetime of knowledge and working with the plants. So that'll be exciting. That's actually one I'm looking forward to sharing with you, because that's sharing like a little peek into the window of my creative side. So I'm keeping these spread apart a little bit because they're gonna get like this, you know? So actually, let me scooch it over a little bit. There we go. Okay. But yep, those are gonna be absolutely beautiful and gorgeous. Well, this garden is the next one, and I have to come up with something creative over here that's also functional with what we actually need and have left, and to kind of give that fall flair again. So the next time I see you guys, it will be, you know, ready to share with you how I place things and what I put in here. So we'll see you guys next time.